He thought he was being smart, investing in crypto for a better retirement. But one message, one promise of easy profit, turned his entire life upside down. At 62, he lost $50,000, his savings, his trust, his peace. What happened next wasn't about money, it was about family, and a daughter who refused to let her father give up. The chill that snaked its way into my bones wasn't from the autumn morning air, though the dampness clinging to my roses certainly felt sharp against my weathered fingers. No, this cold was deeper, a gnawing anxiety that had taken root weeks ago, ever since I had pressed confirm on that fateful transfer. My name's Tom Miller, 62 years young, or old depending on the day, and for 2 beautiful years I'd been living the quiet dream of retirement each sunrise a gift, each page of my morning newspaper a slow indulgence, each bloom in my little garden a personal triumph. But beneath that gentle rhythm, like a low hum you almost forget is there, was the promise of Lisbon, Paris, Rome, vivid postcards taped haphazardly to my fridge, each one a whispered pledge to myself after decades spent in classrooms, pouring my heart into young minds. $50,000 that was my travel fund, my freedom fund, meticulously saved, nickel and dime, every extra tutoring session, every careful budget, every skipped extravagance. It was more than just numbers on a bank statement. It was the tangible sum of my patience, my discipline, my future. And then, one ordinary afternoon at a cheerful local craft fair, no less, a seemingly innocuous conversation planted a seed of desire that would almost consume me, a seed that promised to make my dreams grander, faster, richer, and instead nearly withered my spirit to dust. I remember it vividly, the way certain memories etch themselves into your very DNA. It was a Saturday, the kind of crisp fall day where the air smells faintly of wood smoke and damp leaves, perfect for wandering aimlessly. I'd gone to the annual Harvest Festival down by the Old Town Square, mostly to pick up some artisanal honey and maybe a new ceramic pot for my porch ferns. The atmosphere was a balm, a quilt of laughter, live folk music, and the mingled scents of spiced cider and roasting nuts. I was admiring a stand filled with intricate hand-carved wooden birds, running my fingers over the smooth grain of a particularly majestic owl when he appeared beside me. Mark, he introduced himself, smooth as polished glass, with a smile that reached his eyes, or at least I thought it did at the time. He was impeccably dressed, a stark contrast to the flannel shirts and denim jeans of most festival goers, maybe in his early 40s, with a confident, almost magnetic energy. He didn't push, didn't immediately launch into a sales pitch. Instead, he complimented the owl, then transitioned seamlessly into a conversation about the beauty of craftsmanship, the value of legacy, and from there, a natural slide into the concept of investing in the future. You know, Tom, he'd said, leaning in just a fraction, making it feel like a shared secret. Many folks your age, they've worked hard, saved diligently, but they miss out on the truly transformative opportunities because they're stuck in old ways of thinking. Fear of risk, especially in this exploding crypto space. It's not just tech bros anymore. It's where real wealth is being built, quietly, by the smart money. He spoke of Alpha Investments, a name that even then sent a tiny shiver of unease down my spine, a whisper of something too aggressive for my temperament. But his words, they were seductive. He painted pictures not just of Lisbon, but of first class flights to Lisbon, of sprawling suites with ocean views, of leisurely cruises through the Mediterranean where every whim was catered to. $50,000, he suggested, could become 100,000, even more, in mere months. Enough to truly live retirement, not just get by. Enough to leave a legacy for Sarah, my daughter, without touching my primary pension. Who wouldn't want their Lisbon trip to be a little grander, a little more spectacular? I, a man who had always prided himself on pragmatism, on steady, incremental progress, found myself mesmerized by the allure of a shortcut. A part of me, the part that had always secretly wished for a little more ease, a little more splendor, began to listen, to rationalize. And that, I've learned, is precisely when you're most vulnerable, when your deepest desires meet a perfectly crafted illusion. Our conversations, initially casual encounters at the festival, blossomed into a series of carefully orchestrated meetings. Mark was a master of the soft sell, the gradual persuasion. He never pressured me, not overtly. Instead, he nurtured my curiosity, shared carefully curated success stories, littered his speech with technical jargon that sounded incredibly sophisticated yet remained just vague enough to be unquestionable. He'd talk about decentralized ledgers and early stage tokenomics and proprietary algorithms designed to identify undervalued assets. He spoke of a particular exclusive crypto project, a rare gem that was just on the cusp of exploding, and only a select few, his most trusted clients, were being given access. He even sent me glossy brochures, digital ones, of course, as everything was cutting edge, filled with sleek graphics and testimonials from seemingly satisfied investors, all praising Alpha Investment's visionary approach. I remember feeling a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. A faint alarm bell would occasionally chime in the back of my mind, a quiet voice of caution reminding me of the lessons I'd taught my students. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But Mark, with his unwavering confidence and his uncanny ability to anticipate my doubts, always had an answer ready, a perfectly reasoned rebuttal that sounded entirely plausible. He'd say, "Tom, you're a man of letters, a teacher. You understand the value of a good education. Think of this as investing in the future of finance itself. The early adopters, they reap the greatest rewards. Traditional banks, they just can't keep up." He made me feel intelligent, discerning, not foolish. He made me feel like I was the one with the unique insight, not him. It was a subtle, insidious flattery, slowly eroding my innate skepticism. The day I transferred the money, October 17th, it was a Monday, gray and spitting rain. I sat at my kitchen table, the laptop open, the bank transfer screen glaring at me. My finger hovered over the confirm button for what felt like an eternity. $50,000. It was all there, a single line item, patiently accumulated, waiting to be unleashed. The photos of Lisbon on the fridge seemed to shimmer, no longer just aspirations, but imminent realities. Mark was on the phone, his voice a calm, reassuring presence in my ear. "Just one more click, Tom. Welcome to the future. Welcome to financial freedom." I told myself it wasn't greed. Not really. It was ambition. It was the desire for a retirement that wasn't just comfortable, but truly enriching, a chance to see the world without constantly checking my budget. It was also, I realize now, a subtle yearning for validation, for a spectacular ending to a humble life. I wanted to prove that even an old teacher could be shrewd, could seize a golden opportunity. So I clicked. And just like that, $50,000 vanished from my secure savings account and into the digital ether, a transaction confirmed by a fleeting sense of both exhilaration and profound unease. The initial weeks after the transfer were a strange, intoxicating blur. Mark kept in regular contact, sending me daily updates, almost hourly at first, showing incredible, albeit entirely virtual, gains. My initial $50,000, according to Alpha Investment's sleek, user-friendly portal, had ballooned to $55,000, then $60,000, and one day, even touching $70,000. Each update was accompanied by an excited phone call from Mark, congratulating me on my foresight, my bravery. "See, Tom, I told you. This is the future. Imagine what Lisbon will look like now, with an extra 20 grand in your pocket." He spoke of booking a private Fado concert, of dining in Michelin-starred restaurants overlooking the Tagus River. I allowed myself to dream more extravagantly, mentally upgrading my backpacker hostels to boutique hotels, my public transport to private car services. I even started looking at travel guides for other destinations, feeling a delicious thrill of expansion. The old adage, "easy come, easy go," never crossed my mind because it felt like I had earned this by being wise enough to trust Mark, by shedding my old, cautious ways. I didn't question the numbers. I just absorbed the intoxicating sense of burgeoning wealth. It was a dopamine hit every time Mark called, every time I refreshed that glowing, deceptive dashboard. Then, slowly, imperceptibly at first, the calls began to thin out. A day would pass without an update. Then two. Mark's responses to my tentative emails became shorter, more evasive. "Market volatility, Tom, just a minor correction. Hold steady. We're in this for the long haul." But the reassurances lacked their original warmth, replaced by a canned, almost robotic formality. The numbers on my Alpha Investments portal, once soaring, began to stagnate, then dip, then flatline. My excitement curdled into a cold, creeping dread. I'd try to call Mark, but the calls would go straight to voicemail or worse, ring unanswered. I left increasingly desperate messages, my voice trembling with an emotion I couldn't quite name. Panic. The website itself, once so inviting, started to glitch, to load slowly, displaying cryptic error messages. One morning, I woke up, stomach clenched, and opened my laptop. The Alpha Investments website was gone. Just a blank screen, a 404 error, a digital void where my hopes had resided. It was like watching a ghost disappear before your eyes, except this ghost had taken everything. $50,000, gone. Vanished without a trace. A cruel, intangible whisper of a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The shame was a crushing weight, suffocating me, pinning me to my armchair. How could I have been so foolish? A retired teacher, a man who had spent his life guiding others, had fallen for the oldest trick in the book. The pride I once felt, that quiet satisfaction in my frugality and common sense, evaporated, leaving behind a hollow ache. I replayed every conversation with Mark, dissecting his smooth words, his practiced smiles, his subtle manipulations. Each memory was a fresh stab of self-recrimination. Why didn't I ask for references? Why didn't I check his credentials? Why did I let greed blind me? The questions spiraled, relentless, unforgiving. I couldn't bear to look at the empty space on my fridge where the Lisbon postcards had been. I'd ripped them down in a fit of despair, crumpling them into a ball that felt like my own heart. My once vibrant home, usually filled with the aroma of coffee and baking bread, became a quiet, dusty tomb. The roses in my garden, my pride and joy, went untended. Weeds, like unwelcome thoughts, began to creep in, slowly strangling the delicate blooms. My days blurred into a monotonous cycle of staring blankly out the window, nursing cold cups of coffee, and avoiding human contact. The phone, once a connection to the world, now became an instrument of dread. Every ring was a potential judgment, a question I couldn't answer. Sarah, my daughter, called often, her voice a lifeline I desperately needed but instinctively pushed away. I'd let it ring out or pick it up only to offer curt, dismissive answers. No, everything's fine, sweetheart. Just tired, old age, you know how it is. I hated myself for lying, for pushing her away, but the thought of confessing, of admitting my catastrophic mistake, was unbearable. How could I tell her I had squandered her inheritance, that I had become the very kind of person I warned my students about? The loneliness was a self-imposed prison, built brick by brick from my shame and fear. I cooked simple, tasteless meals for one, the joy of food, once a simple pleasure, now just a chore. Life, once a gentle current, had become a stagnant pond, murky and still. Sarah, bless her heart, wasn't easily deterred. She's got her mother's fierce loyalty and a tenacity I've always admired. After a week of my increasingly evasive calls and missed appointments, she didn't just call again. She showed up, unannounced. I heard her key in the lock, a sound that usually brought a smile to my face, but that day it sent a jolt of pure panic through me. I instinctively tried to tidy up, to pretend everything was normal, but the neglect of weeks was a physical presence in the house. Dust motes dancing in the afternoon light, a stack of untouched newspapers, the faint scent of stale air. She walked in, her bright, energetic presence a stark contrast to the gloom that had settled over my home. Her eyes, sharp and loving, immediately took in the scene. Me, slumped on the sofa, a book open but unread in my lap, the wilting roses visible through the window. She didn't scold, didn't immediately pry. She just looked, and in that look, I saw a profound sadness that mirrored my own. Dad, she began, her voice soft but firm as she walked slowly through the living room, picking up a stray envelope here, straightening a crooked picture there, her actions saying more than words. You're not okay. I've called you a dozen times, and you either don't answer or sound like you're trying to shake me off. And your garden, Dad, your roses are your pride and joy. This isn't you. What's going on? I mumbled some feeble excuse about feeling a bit under the weather, a touch of seasonal blues, the usual old man lament. Nothing, sweetheart, just a bit tired. Old age, you know. My voice cracked on the last word, betraying the practiced nonchalance. I couldn't meet her gaze, instead focusing on a loose thread on the worn armrest of the sofa. She sat down beside me, gently taking my hand, her touch warm and solid. Dad, I know you. You're the most resilient man I know, but you're also incredibly private. I understand that. But something is clearly hurting you, and you don't have to carry it alone. I'm here, Dad. Always. No matter what. You can tell me anything, please. Her words, so simple, so genuine, were like a key turning in a rusted lock. The dam I had built around myself, brick by brick, of shame and silence began to crack. I looked into her eyes then, saw the genuine concern, the unwavering love, and the carefully constructed facade crumbled. My throat tightened, a hot lump forming in my chest. All the pent-up grief, the fear, the humiliation surged forward. Tears, hot and uncontrollable, streamed down my face, blurring her worried expression. I hadn't cried like that since my wife passed, years ago. Sarah didn't say a word, just wrapped her arms around me, holding me tight as I sobbed, the tremors shaking my entire body. I made a terrible mistake, Sarah, I choked out, my voice raw with emotion. The words were a torrent, rushing out now that the dam had broken. A man, Mark, he scammed me. I lost it all, baby girl. $50,000, my travel fund. Gone. Everything. I was so stupid, so incredibly foolish. The confession felt like a physical weight lifting off my chest, even as the pain of it remained. She just held me tighter, stroking my back, whispering reassurances. Oh, Dad. Oh, Dad. You're not stupid. You're not. Those scammers, they're professionals. They prey on people. It could happen to anyone. The most important thing is that you told me, that you trusted me. We're going to figure this out together, every step of the way. I promise. In that moment, cradled in my daughter's embrace, I realized that even though the money was gone, I wasn't entirely lost. I still had her, and that, in its own quiet way, was a treasure beyond measure. The next few days were a blur of practicalities and processing. Sarah, with her calm resolve and boundless energy, became my personal investigator. After I recounted the details of my interactions with Mark and Alpha Investments, her initial anger at the injustice quickly transformed into a focused determination. We sat side by side at my kitchen table, my old laptop open between us, the aroma of the fresh coffee she'd brewed a comforting counterpoint to the grim task at hand. The shame still gnawed at me, a persistent echo, but with Sarah beside me, it felt less isolating. I was no longer alone in this pit of despair. Okay, Dad, she'd said, her fingers flying across the keyboard by a slight frown of concentration on her face. First things first, anyone who's giving investment advice, especially managing funds, needs to be licensed. There's a central database for that, a really crucial tool that everyone should know about. It's called FINRA Broker Check. I watched, a knot forming in my stomach. She typed FINRA Broker Check into the search bar, and a professional-looking website, clean and official, popped up. FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, she explained, her voice clear and pedagogical, almost like a younger version of me in a classroom. They're the big guns. They oversee all the brokerage firms and financial advisors in the U.S. If someone's legit, their records will be here. Licenses, any disciplinary actions, the whole 9 yards. She asked for Mark's full name, and I gave her what I remembered, a sinking feeling growing in my chest. She typed it in, paused, and then hit enter. The screen refreshed, and a stark red banner message appeared. No records found matching your search criteria. My breath hitched. A strange mix of acute pain and profound relief washed over me. No records at all, I whispered, the reality of it hitting me with the force of a physical blow. He wasn't even a licensed financial advisor. He was just a con artist. The sheer audacity of it, the cold calculation, made my blood run cold. It wasn't just a bad investment, it was an outright betrayal, a criminal act. Sarah placed a reassuring hand on my arm. Exactly, Dad. This is the first, most critical lesson from all of this, and one I hope everyone watching this will engrave in their memory. Always, without exception, check the credentials of anyone who offers to handle your money or give you investment advice. If they're not licensed, they have no legal right to do what they're doing. FINRA Broker Check is free, easy to use, and your first line of defense. Think of it like checking a taxi driver's license before you get in the car. You wouldn't trust your life to an unlicensed driver, so why trust your life savings to an unlicensed advisor? The realization, though heartbreaking, was also oddly empowering. The shame I'd felt, the self-loathing that had consumed me, began to recede, replaced by a surge of righteous anger. I hadn't been foolish enough to trust a professional. I had been deceived by a fraudster, a criminal. The anger was a healthier emotion, a cleaner one. It was a catalyst. It ignited a spark of determination within me, a resolve to learn, to understand, and to reclaim control. This painful lesson, I vowed, would not be in vain. With the bitter truth laid bare, a strange calm settled over me. The anger was still there, a simmering ember, but it was now channeled, focused. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, saw this shift. Okay, Dad, she said, closing the FINRA tab. We can't undo what happened. We can report him, and we will. But our focus now needs to be on what we can control, rebuilding. And we're going to do it the right way, the safe way. She opened a new tab, and this time the content on the screen felt like a soothing balm compared to the flashy, deceptive graphics of Alpha Investments. We looked at charts, not of speculative crypto projects, but of historical market data, slow and steady upward trends over decades. She began to talk about a concept I'd vaguely heard of but never truly understood: index funds. You know, Dad, she began, after what you went through, the last thing you need is more risk or complexity. The big lie of Mark and his ilk is that you have to take huge risks to get rich, or that you need some secret proprietary insight. The truth is often far more boring, but infinitely more effective. I listened intently, a fresh cup of coffee in my hands, a subtle but significant difference from the cold, untouched cups of the previous weeks. Boring sounds pretty good to me right about now, Sarah, I admitted, a wry smile finally touching my lips. I've had enough excitement to last me a lifetime. She smiled back, a genuine, encouraging smile. Exactly. So let's talk about index funds and ETFs, exchange traded funds. Think of it this way. Instead of trying to pick the winning horse in a race, which is what individual stock picking and speculative investments like crypto try to do, you're just buying a tiny piece of every horse in the race. Or more accurately, a tiny piece of the entire stock market. She opened the website for Vanguard, a name I recognized as solid and reputable, though I'd never really looked into them. Take something like the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. What it does is simple. It holds a small fraction of the shares of the 500 largest companies in America, giants like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. When you invest in this, you're instantly diversified. If one company stumbles, the other 499 are likely still doing okay. It spreads out the risk so much that no single company's failure can cripple your portfolio. She scrolled down, highlighting a tiny number. And the best part, Dad, is the cost. These funds have incredibly low expense ratios, sometimes as low as 0.03% a year. That means almost all of your money is working for you, not being siphoned off in fees by some expert actively trying to pick stocks, which, by the way, most actively managed funds fail to beat the market anyway. My eyes, once clouded with despair, were now alight with a genuine, eager curiosity. This wasn't about gambling. This was about sensible, long-term growth. It wasn't about flashy promises. It was about proven, historical performance. So it's not about getting rich overnight, is it? I mused aloud, the lesson hitting home with a quiet resonance. It's about steady, reliable growth. Patience. Precisely, Dad, Sarah confirmed, a look of satisfaction on her face. It's about understanding that time in the market beats timing the market. It's about the quiet power of compounding, about letting your money work for you steadily, year after year, without the stress and anxiety of trying to chase the next big thing. It might not sound glamorous, but it is, by far, one of the most effective and psychologically peaceful ways to invest back, especially for someone like you who's looking for stability and sustainable growth in retirement. Her words were like a cool drink after a long, parched journey. There were no false promises, no grandiose claims, just logic, transparency, and a grounded reality. It offered a path forward, a way to rebuild not just my finances, but my peace of mind. I was done with the flashy, the sensational, the get-rich-quick fantasies. This felt right. This felt real. It was humble, sure, but it was mine, and I could trust it. The ghost of Mark's promises began to fade, replaced by the solid, reassuring presence of data and common sense. The next piece of the puzzle, Sarah explained, was about leveraging the system, about understanding the rules of the game to our advantage. We dove into my old financial papers, the dusty boxes I'd shoved into the back of my closet after retirement, filled with tax documents and statements from my teaching days. It felt like an archaeological dig into my past, but this time with a purpose. Okay, Dad, Sarah said, sifting through a pile of old 401k statements. Here's something many people overlook, especially those who've retired or are scaling back work. It's called catch-up contributions for retirement accounts. At your age, you actually have a special advantage, a way to accelerate rebuilding your nest egg. I looked up, intrigued. Catch-up contributions? I thought once you retired or were over 60, your ability to contribute to retirement accounts pretty much dried up. That's what I always assumed. It was a common misconception, one I probably harbored myself. Not entirely true, Dad, she corrected gently, her finger tracing a line on an old 401k statement. While you might not have the big regular paychecks anymore, if you have any earned income, even from those online tutoring gigs you do a few hours a week, or a small consulting job, or a part time role, you can still contribute to an IRA. And for those over 50, the IRS allows for extra contributions beyond the standard limits. She leaned in, her voice filled with a quiet excitement. For 2025, for accounts like 401ks, 403bs, and 457 plans, which your old school 401k falls under, the catch up contribution is projected to be an additional $7,100 per year. That's on top of the regular contribution limit. This means you can significantly supercharge your savings. And for IRAs, if you have sufficient taxable income, you can contribute an extra $1,000 beyond the standard limit for 2025. This isn't just a small perk, Dad. It's a powerful tool designed specifically for people over 50 to rapidly boost their retirement savings. My eyes widened. Really? So, those few online lessons I still do, that small pension from the state, it means I can put even more money back into my old 401k from the school? I still have a small balance there, never fully rolled it over, just left it dormant. A dormant account, now a potential lifeline. The irony wasn't lost on me. Exactly, Sarah beamed, seeing the hope rekindle in my eyes. It's a benefit that younger investors don't have. It acknowledges that you might need to make up for lost time or for a period of lower earnings. It's like the government giving you a fast pass to catch up on your savings goals. Maximizing these catch-up contributions is one of the smartest, most tax-advantaged ways you can rebuild your fund. As she spoke, my phone buzzed. I glanced at it, and a notification from the Social Security Administration popped up. "Hey, Sarah," I said, pointing to the screen, a small smile forming on my face. "Look at this. Social Security just announced the projected cost of living adjustment, the COLA, for 2025. They're estimating around 3.2%. Sarah leaned over to see. "That's fantastic, Dad. It might seem like a small number in isolation, but it's a crucial adjustment. It means your Social Security benefits will increase by that amount, helping you maintain your purchasing power against inflation. It's not a huge win, no, but it's a consistent, reliable piece of stability you can count on. Every little bit helps when you're building back up." These numbers, these concrete verifiable facts, weren't the dazzling ephemeral promises of Mark's crypto scheme. They were grounded, practical tools. They offered me not just hope, but a sense of agency, a feeling that I was once again holding the reins of my own financial future. The system, for all its complexities, sometimes did offer genuine advantages if you just knew where to look, and more importantly, had someone patient enough to show you. I felt a quiet sense of empowerment stirring within me, a belief that I could indeed come back from this. Despite the newfound hope and the clarity that Sarah's guidance provided, a lingering anxiety gnawed at me. The betrayal by Mark had left a deep scar, a mistrust not just of people, but of my own judgment, especially when it came to numbers and complex financial decisions. We had learned about index funds, about catch-up contributions, but the thought of managing it all myself, choosing the right funds, rebalancing the portfolio, navigating market fluctuations, felt daunting, a potential minefield for my still fragile confidence. I looked at the myriad tabs open on my computer screen, each one a portal to a world of financial jargon and endless choices. "Sarah," I confessed, running a hand through my graying hair, "these index funds, they sound solid, truly. But do I really have to be the one making all the decisions? Balancing the portfolio, knowing when to buy more, when to hold? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. I'm exhausted by complexity. I'm scared to make another wrong move." The memory of those fabricated crypto charts, the illusory gains, still haunted me. I'd grown weary of looking at screens, of the endless, anxious monitoring. Sarah, ever perceptive, recognized the fear behind my words. She offered a gentle, understanding smile. "Dad, that's completely understandable. The last thing you need is another source of stress, especially when it comes to your money. But guess what? There's an incredible tool that solves exactly that problem. removing the emotional burden and the complexity for you. It's called a robo-advisor. She clicked open a new tab, revealing a clean, intuitive interface for Vanguard Personal Advisor Services. Remember Vanguard, where we looked at the index funds? They and many other reputable financial institutions offer these services. A robo-advisor is essentially an automated financial advisor. You answer a few simple questions, your financial goals, your comfort level with risk, your time horizon, and it does all the heavy lifting for you. My eyes widened, a flicker of genuine hope igniting within me. Automated? You mean I don't have to do anything? The idea seemed almost too good to be true, a stark contrast to the Hanson high-stress world Mark had promised. Pretty much, Dad, she affirmed, her excitement infectious. It takes your answers and automatically builds a diversified portfolio for you, primarily using those low-cost index funds and ETFs we talked about. But here's the magic. It then manages that portfolio for you. It automatically rebalances it when necessary, ensuring you stick to your desired asset allocation. It automatically reinvests dividends. It even handles tax loss harvesting in some cases, which can save you money on taxes. You don't have to watch the market. You don't have to decide when to buy or sell. You just set up an automatic monthly transfer from your checking account, a regular contribution you can afford, and let the technology do its work. I stared at the screen, the simplicity of it almost disarming. It felt like a weight when I hadn't even fully realized I was carrying was slowly being lifted. So it takes the guesswork out of it and the worry? Precisely, Sarah confirmed. It takes the emotion out of investing, which is crucial. Humans are notoriously bad investors because we let our feelings, fear during market downturns, greed during upswings dictate our decisions. A robo-advisor eliminates that. It sticks to your plan consistently, automatically, regardless of what the market is doing on any given day. It's the safest, easiest, and most effective way to rebuild your fund without needing to become a finance guru or spend your retirement glued to market charts. A profound sense of peace began to settle over me. Finally, a clear path forward, not a winding, treacherous shortcut, but a steady, well-lit road. It wasn't about complex algorithms or exclusive access. It was about smart, systematic, and automated investment. The anxiety that had gripped me for so long, the fear of making another blunder, began to dissipate, replaced by a quiet confidence. I didn't need to be brilliant or lucky. I just needed to be patient and consistent. And with a robo-advisor, even the consistency was automated. It felt liberating, a true twist in the tale that the solution to my modern financial woe was to embrace a different, more reliable kind of modern technology. The seasons turned again, and with them, so did I. The transformation wasn't a sudden, dramatic flourish, but a gradual, organic unfolding, like the slow, steady opening of a rosebud after a long winter. The first visible change was in my garden. Those neglected roses, once choked by weeds and drooping with sorrow, began to respond to my renewed attention. I spent hours out there, my hands in the rich earth, pruning, watering, nurturing. Each vibrant bloom that unfurled its petals felt like a small victory, a reflection of the life stirring within me once more. The physical act of tending to something, watching it flourish, became a powerful metaphor for my own healing. My mornings slowly regained their ritualistic calm. The newspaper, once a prop for my melancholic reverie, was now genuinely read, absorbed. The coffee, always hot, was savored, not just clutched. I found myself humming old tunes again, a gentle, almost forgotten melody returning to my lips. Sarah, true to her word, helped me set up my Vanguard robo-advisor account. It was surprisingly straightforward. I answered the questions, set up the automatic monthly transfers, a modest but consistent amount from my pension and my small online tutoring income, and then I let it go. The initial balance was laughably small compared to the $50,000 I'd lost, but it was my money, genuinely invested, steadily growing, overseen by logic, not deceit. I learned to check the app only occasionally, not obsessively. I found a surprising peace in the slow, consistent climb of the numbers, a quiet affirmation that patience truly was a virtue, especially when it came to money. I started reconnecting with my old friends. Initially, the thought of telling them about my ordeal was terrifying. The shame lingered, a tiny, persistent whisper. But one sunny afternoon, while sharing a slice of apple pie and coffee with Frank and Martha at our usual local diner, the words just tumbled out. I started hesitantly, describing the encounter with Mark, the dazzling promises, the slow realization of the scam. As I spoke, the weight lifted. Frank, a retired accountant, listened with a grave expression, occasionally nodding. Martha, ever the empathetic one, reached across the table and squeezed my hand. They didn't pity me, they understood. And then a surprising thing happened. Frank shared his own story of almost falling for a dubious real estate opportunity years ago, and Martha recounted how a distant relative had lost a significant sum to a phishing scam. It was a revelation. I wasn't alone. Scammers weren't just preying on the naive, they were preying on everyone. And my experience wasn't a unique mark of foolishness, but a shared vulnerability. Sharing my story transformed it from a source of humiliation into a cautionary tale, a lesson to impart, just as I had done my entire life in the classroom. It became my purpose to warn others, especially those in my age group who might be less digitally savvy or more susceptible to smooth talk. My Lisbon pictures, once crumpled and discarded, found their way back onto the fridge, albeit in new, crisper printouts. This time, they weren't just images of a dream, they were symbols of resilience, of a future I was actively, patiently rebuilding. The budget wasn't for extravagant, Mark inspired luxury, it was for a sensible, meaningful journey, rich with experiences, not just opulence. I even started learning a few Portuguese phrases on a language app, the words feeling good on my tongue, connecting me to a future I could genuinely envision. I never got the $50,000 back from that con artist. The authorities, after my report, confirmed that Mark and Alpha Investments were part of a sophisticated international scam operation, a ghost in the digital machine, and the chances of recovering my funds were slim to none. But I did reclaim something infinitely more valuable: my self respect, my peace of mind, and my unwavering belief in my own capacity to recover and learn. The loss, as agonizing as it was, had been a crucible. It burned away my naivety, my hidden desire for shortcuts, and forged in its place a profound appreciation for honesty, due diligence, and the quiet, unsung power of patience. It taught me that there are no genuine shortcuts to sustainable wealth, only consistent effort and informed decisions. And most importantly, it taught me that no matter how old you are, no matter how profound the setback, it is never too late to start again, to learn anew, and to trust in the journey, not just the destination. Now, as I sit here watching the morning sun paint my rejuvenated rose garden in hues of gold and crimson, I think about Lisbon. It's no longer a faraway fantasy dependent on a gamble. It's a tangible goal, a promise kept to myself, funded by careful planning and the slow, steady hum of my robo-advisor. My new travel fund, though still growing, is built on a foundation of integrity and common sense. It's not about the money I lost, but about the priceless lessons I gained, the inner strength I rediscovered, and the profound gratitude for my daughter Sarah, who pulled me out of the darkness and showed me the light. I realize now that a happy retirement isn't about avoiding mistakes, but about how you respond to them. It's about resilience, about never stopping the learning process, and about holding on to hope, even when all seems lost. Lisbon, I'm coming for you. And this time, I'm bringing a lifetime of hard-won wisdom with me. Hey everyone, Tom Miller here, and if you've stayed with me through my story, I hope you felt some of the raw emotion, the crushing despair, and ultimately, the quiet triumph of learning and rebuilding. This journey, losing everything to a scam, and finding my way back taught me profound lessons not just about money, but about life, trust, and the incredible power of resilience. If my story resonated with you, if you've ever felt the sting of regret or the overwhelming desire to start over, please hit that like button right now. It helps this message reach more people who might be feeling lost or overwhelmed. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, perhaps they've been approached by a suspicious financial advisor or they're struggling to regain their footing after a setback, do them a favor and share this video with them. You never know whose life you might touch just by sharing a message of hope and caution. Now, I want to hear from you. We're building a community here, a place where we can share our experiences and learn from each other. So, in the comments below, tell me, have you ever been approached by a scammer or fallen victim to a financial trap? What did you learn? What's a time in your life when you had to start over, either financially or personally? How did you find the strength to do it? What's one piece of financial advice you wish someone had told you when you were younger or when you were just starting retirement? Don't wait to take control of your financial future or to seek help if you're struggling. Start today. Learn, question, and protect what you've worked so hard for. Let us know in the comments what step you're taking to secure your peace of mind and your dreams. And if you want more stories like mine, more practical advice, and a community dedicated to helping each other navigate the sometimes tricky waters of life and finance, then do yourself a favor. Subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. Together, we can build a future that's not just prosperous, but peaceful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments and in the next video.